We are going to start this seminar focusing on digital product passport. I'm pleased to welcome Camille, Benoit, and Leonore. But before introduce yourself, just to mention that this topic of transparency, we are at a time of transparency. We first started with corporate transparency, and you all know, I guess, that we have upcoming EU regulation as a CSRD that are going to boost this corporate transparency. But now we are accelerating, moving to corporate transparency to product transparency, which is the next challenge, I have to say. And again, it's a demand from customer, but also again a story of regulation, especially at the EU level. We have many regulations integrating this topic of digital product passport, focusing on transparency. We could mention a lot of them, but I know that Leonore will come back to these regulations. And by the way, you have a beautiful board at the entrance of the fair focusing on this EU regulation. So first, I would like to welcome, if you can introduce quickly yourself with maybe Leonore.
Hi, thanks Alex, and thanks everyone for being here. Leonore, I'm heading sustainability at the Fédération de la Haute Couture and la Mode. We're a French, French Fashion Council. We are a professional organization bringing together creative and luxury houses. We're the most famous for the Paris Fashion Week and Haute Couture Week, which is going on this week. And I've been focusing lately on environmental performance, and this is what we're going to talk about today.
Benoit?
Yeah, very pleased to be here. And so on my side, I lead all the Web3 topic for the group. So Web3 topic include like everything related close to blockchain. So everything speaking about NFT, digital product passport, and touching also on topics like 3D and immersive experience.
Yeah, and Camille Legal, very pleased to be here as well. I'm the co-founder of Fairly Made. Very happy also to be back to the Fabric Expo 6 years after the very beginning also of the journey at Fairly Made. So at that time, I was still working for the fashion industry and the luxury industry, and we decided to create Fairly Made to reveal the backyard of the garments. So basically, we offer a traceability solution for the brands to trace their supply chain, then to measure the impact of the garments, and then to communicate about it. So I brought a beautiful pair of shoes with QR codes, so that then we can speak concretely about what is a DPP today.
So DPP, first, we don't exactly know what is DPP, I guess, most of us. We know that it's used to facilitate sustainable production. It's used to inform customers, traceability, but also environmental performance. So maybe, Leonore, you could explain to us what are the regulations at the EU levels that are mentioning this topic of DPP, but also I would say the main big topic with DPP will be the environmental footprint. So can you bring an overview of the current regulations at the EU level?
First, you're going to have to bear with me because there's a lot of acronyms. So maybe DPP, Digital Product Passport. The real point here today is that in 2022, the European Commission published a strategy for sustainable and circular textiles, setting the framework for the future of textiles in Europe. What it has, one of the requirements was on digital product passports, so the DPP, which is essentially just a tool to keep and track record of product information. Product information can be both on the processes, on the materials that are used, the extraction, but also on how they're being used and cared for, and also on the end-of-life information that you could then provide for a really good case study for recyclers, for example. What is interesting in the DPP is that also you can show the environmental performance of products. And as such, another acronym, which is the Product Environmental Footprints, PEF, which is a standardized referential for yet another acronym for an LCA, so a life cycle assessment. What it does is that it brings together 16 environmental indicators for the apparel and footwear sector, and to set the rules on how to measure the footprint of garments. Since 2020, the Fédération, and along with its members of the luxury sector, we represent the creative and designers brands in an instance to build the rules of the product environmental footprint for apparel and footwear. The rules are from what do you use for the materials, how their processes, what are the default values, but as well very hot topics like microfibers and microplastic. So the hot topic that you were mentioning on digital product passport, you could also have an array of environmental performance criteria, including microplastic, including on the durability of products, including on their repairability, which is quite a new topic. What's ongoing is that it will be published in March 2025 after 5 years of work, so we're quite excited about this, even though it raises a lot of limitations to have one standardized method, obviously.
And could you explain us what are currently the main topic discussed at the EU level when we are talking about product environmental footprint? I know that there are many discussions between fast fashion, sports industry, luxury. What are the main topics discussed today?
So it's true that the technical secretariat brings together sportswear and mass market companies and brands. So it's as such, the luxury sector, because we're so little in terms of volumes, we don't really have much say and much input on what represent the market. However, we do represent a part of the market that has very high quality products, a different kind of sourcing, arguably a better traceability as well. So we do have another viewpoint. The hot topics, to be honest, it's been very much linked to the politics. The referential has taken longer than we had hoped, and the politics have gone faster at a European level for various reasons. So the hot topics would be durability of products, and I think that's we really struggled, and really it was very challenging to put into paper a definition of holistic durability, which would have both physical aspects of really the robustness of products, the non-physical durability, which so far we haven't reached an agreement to put it into paper, but more so to provide guidance, which is to say the level of attachment of product, how you care for, the commercial practices that lead to why do you keep longer a product. And the third aspect of holistic durability would be repairability, so the potential for repair and the services that a brand can provide. Of course, when you look at creative and luxury products, a number of products are quite delicate and they're quite fragile. And that really is one of the questions that, how do you say that a product can be durable, even though it can be, by essence, extremely fragile? And I think that's one of the hot topic, along with microfibers, but I've already mentioned that.
And maybe also, I know that French government is trying to develop an equivalent. We call that the French Eco Score. Could you explain us, maybe, is it really different from the European PEF, or do we have some similarities? What are the main differences?
So France politically, and I'm quite glad the slide came up a little bit sooner because it's quite rich. So there's a lot of things to read, which is good. The French Ministry for Environment, they're trying to be pioneers. I feel this is a very French part of the French culture that we always try to be at the upfront of this topic, especially for textiles. And they started 10 years ago a pilot on substantiating green claims. What it has done recently is that they accelerated the pilots and they've created a tool which is very accessible and very easy to use to simulate the environmental cost of textile products. The tool is called EcoBalise, so unfortunately it's only available in French, but if you can read through it or if you can use probably one of AI website to translate it, you can see what has an impact on products and on the environmental cost. First, the big difference is that in PFCR, so again, the acronym for Product Environmental Footprint, it has a unique score with 16 indicators. Similarly, in France, we have one unique score but it's the environmental cost. So it's kind of to say that every product has a price on the environment, and the unit measure it would be a fictional one because it kind of weighs different indicators, environmental of course, but other aspects like non-physical durability, like ecotoxicity, like microfibers that are not yet included in the unique score of the PFCR. So that's one big difference. It's important to know as well that it's in absolute values. So it is to say that really every product that is on the market has an impact and has a cost. Whereas there you can see how the scoring, there are ABCD system or traffic light system, which is that you kind of see that if it's an A, maybe you kind of want to buy more of A because it's good for the planet. What it has done as well is that it has taken some political perspectives on substantiating green claims. And whilst in the European version we have put a big focus on physical durability, the French methodology has put a big focus on non-physical aspects and on commercial practices. So you have an indicator that is called non-physical durability that has a malus point for brands that have repeated a very high rate of a number of collections, low prices, low repair services, etc. And I think that's one of the major difference. And lastly, and sorry I'm being so long, the big difference is on the database. And this is where we get into, and I think that will be a really good transition with my fellow speakers here, is the choice of the database, and that is to say how to convert emission factors into, so electricity or entrance or materials into emission factors is the key to producing a scoring for environmental performance. And the big difference is that in France we've got an open source database that's called Base Empreinte, and it has done a partnership with EcoInvent, but it's only quite partial. We have another European one that has a certain level of disaggregation, but then you have a third level where companies have worked thoroughly in the past few years to produce this data, and how to collaborate with those different database providers, how to incorporate this is a big question mark, because obviously different databases means different methodology and different scoring. So that would be
and the French methodology and the French tool is already already available. So if a company is willing to test, they can test already today.
Yeah. So the voluntary framework is up already. It's up now. The decree is under writing. It will probably most likely be published by the end of the year for a voluntary framework, and then mandatory in the coming years, and we'll see what the politics in France
say. Thank you, Leonore. Camille, can you explain us who is Fairly Made, how you can help the brands to evaluate this famous environmental footprint of product and help them to communicate and with their customers?
Yeah. So I would say that our work actually is to make it easier for the brands to understand, like for sure, what Leonore put also on stage. It's like the complexity, not only on regulation, but the complexity of the calculations. So basically, what we do is a very complex work that we try to put in a nutshell on this slide. Because our first work is to collect the data. So it's to collect the data, to structure it, and to help the brands first to structure it, because the information comes from either Excel sheets, CSV files, PLM, ERP, other acronym actually for the brands that are also on stage. But the topic of the data, it's really key. And actually we are a company, a SaaS platform, converting data into digest information and to push it and to publish it, this data again, for the brands and the final customer. So if I summarize, our work is basically to collect the data, to calculate some scores, and then to communicate about it. So I would say that the first element for the brands is to make sure that the data is properly organized at their own level. The second step for Fairly Made is actually the second yellow block. It's the supplier platform, where we help the brands to collect primary data, because as Leonore explained, the key element is to have access as, LCA calculations to other data, because some databases are clean enough to integrate primary data into LCA calculations. So this is a challenge, is actually to collect also information on not only like the manufacturing, but also the dyeing, the yarn spinners, the raw material providers. And then to have access also to databases. So to name few, we have access to either public and private databases. Once this work is done, we did a huge amount of work, and we basically created an internal LCA engine and traceability engine in order to digest those elements, to make it also available in a secured platform for the brands to work with this. So we have the pleasure to work with many maisons now at the LVMH group, but the idea for us is also to be able to embrace the work also for smaller brands. So we work as well with different corporate like Garnier. We work with also Rossignol, Sportswear Goods, Bash in France, so different type of brands, because as once again we explained, the regulation is now, and we need to embrace and to embark all the brands, never mind if they are either small, medium or big brands. So I would say that this aspect of calculation is complex. We try to make it easier and at scale for the brands, because it's also no longer a matter of evaluating few items of your collection, but now a matter of delivering these information at scale. So it means sometime on 10,000 references per year for the brands. And last but not least, and that's where actually we collaborate with also the topics on the DPP, the communication. Because I would say that when we created this company with Laure, my associate, 6 years ago, we were really frustrating to say, okay, now we have CSR directors, we have, I would say, buyers that are really committed into social and environmental aspects. But once you do all those efforts, it's really tough to communicate to the final customer. And we're speaking about even before regulation to come into the landscape. It was really a frustration of not having the right tools, not having the right communication medium to communicate. So that's the reason why we developed those QR codes originally, to put pictures, comments, the certification also coming all along the chains in order for the brands to get it back into their own system. So again, PLM, it can be a wallet, it can be any kind of supports, or QR codes for the retails, and widget for the e-commerce platform. So I would say that if we come back to the TPP, tough for you to scan this one, but you try and you can have access to the one on the screen. But basically, our main role is also to make it live, because regulation is also taking a lot of energy, a lot of time, in order to align all Leonore, I would say, partners around the tables. It's ages and years of work to make it feasible. So at least what we try to put, it's this upstream traceability, which is Fairly Made works, into a QR code. And then for the brands that want to go further, and that's an example of Mage, they try to put now the resale, the repair, plus the rental supports at the bottom part for the final customer also to have access to additional services. And I think that is also what you're also trying to push. Yes. It's additional services, because I would say that it's great to do a lot of work at the upstream elements and effort on it, but there is a life cycle after the selling point, and that's also the purpose of the DPP.
Thank you, Camille. Benoit, you are the one who is handling this topic of DPP at LVMH, at the LVMH Digital Department. Could you explain us maybe what are you doing internally? I know that you are relying also on a specific blockchain called Aura. Could you, maybe explain us how you handle this topic?
So for us, the DPP, so the roots are mainly two different aspects. The first one was said by Leonore, related to everything on traceability and circularity around materials and products. And the second part that was quite crucial also for us is everything related to the authenticity of the product. As you know, luxury products are highly counterfeited. And so we wanted to find a solution for that. And for sure, we try to see on the market which technology were available. And one technology made the most sense for us was to record information on the blockchain. We want to make sure that we can provide some strong claims on the traceability aspect of our product. We want also to make sure that, for example, we want to ensure the authenticity of our product and to claim some ecological also statements, and to make sure that we record what we are claiming to our clients. So we started with that foundation, and that's why we created a consortium that's called the Aura Blockchain Consortium. So we created with a couple of luxury groups, so including Cartier, Richemont, including Prada, and including OTB Group. And so together we worked actually to try to brainstorm on what could be our vision for the DPP. Because I guess there is not a single definition, and we wanted to understand what we could provide in terms of value for the clients in the DPP. And so right now, kind of our definition, it's the DPP for us, it's kind of a hub of contents plus services to enrich basically the product experience. And to be honest, in a nutshell, you can see it in a smart, interactive, evolutive recipe that we give to our client and that is attached to the product. And so, as we were saying, we started with traceability, with authenticity, but to make sure that it's bringing as much value as possible to the clients, that's where we included services. And for sure, Camille mentioned some of them, but you know, we are trying to evolve into everything related to care, to maintenance, to services like warranty. For example, we launched last month with Rimowa a DPP that is including the warranty of the product. Sorry. Some other brands have been working also on the insurance services that is now embedded into the DPP. But you can think about, many different services, like how do you streamline the gifting workflow? How do you provide lost and theft services? And so our work will be to building that foundation, building that product-centric hub that is the DPP, and step by step we will continue embedding content and services to enrich the product and the client experience.
Thank you, Benoit. Camille, I will come back maybe to you. One question: when we talk about all this information that we need to consolidate, to collect, to develop the information which are embedded in the DPP, what are the main challenges? Because you have to go through the whole supply chain, maybe sometimes tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. How can you help the brands to do that? Is it a big challenge for the brands to collect all and consolidate all this information?
Yeah, I would say we, over the last few years, we faced different challenges. If we go back to the, I would say, 4 to 5 years, we already faced this very opaque industry challenges. So maybe you're part of the industry for a long time, but the secrecy of the recipe on some suppliers, the secret as well of the subcontractors, the secret of your own suppliers were something. So actually starting opening also the supply chains for the brands were already a challenge. And it was this key topic for us to play the role of third party, being able to collect data from the suppliers, then to aggregate a score and to deliver a score for a brand. So I would say that this were more a structural challenge for the industry. Then the second topic is the data. I would say that fashion industry always been very creative. Then the web challenge also put some key element for the brands to be, I would say, more accurate on the data, more focused on their clients based on the CRM challenges they have. And I would say that this new layer of information on the CSR is now new, and it comes no longer at the end of the production, but it should also come quite early, right after the production, what we call the PPS, pre-production sample. So it needs also the transversal team, so studios, development teams and production teams, to better work hand in hand, to better understand what the data required at that point, in order then to be able to get the right information when the product is put on the floor. So I would say within the production time, so either 2 weeks for the most, I would say, fast fashion brands, or 3 to 4 months for the established brands. It's I would say, the slot you have to gather the information and in order to deliver. And last but not least, I would say it's really related to the end consumer services and the rest of the end of life of the product, is that how does this data remains linked to the product itself. So how does this effort remain, and it's consistent, and it's at the end of the life cycle of the product, like when it needs to be recycled, we still have the exact composition of the product, we still have the exact, I would say, lifetime of a product, also to be accurate on this kind of footprint at the end of life of the product. So different challenges, and also to see that the HR aspect of the different, I would say, maison brand or even small brands, it's a challenge because CSR, it's quite new, and it's in this aspect of data merging with CSR, merging with new and innovation. It needs also to have schools and teachers and like young generation way more also aware of these topics and coming into now to the work of life work, need to have new skills also to embrace those challenges.
Benoit, all this topic of DPP is mainly focusing, not only, but mainly focusing on consumer. But how do you feel them ready to use all this DPP that we can provide now with QR code, with other, I guess, tools? Are they ready? Are they aware of that? How do they use already this information? Do you think it's just the beginning, or what are the reaction of consumer?
Yeah, to be honest, it's just the beginning. Those kind of initiative for us started like probably 3 years ago. So yeah, it's definitely just the beginning. But yeah, the question is, it's not, I guess, is the client ready? Are we ready to provide the full value to the client to make it like a no-brainer to access that information? And I guess Camille mentioned like couple of very, very key challenges to provide that full value. The way that we manage our data, the way that we digitalized a couple of services, the care and maintenance services. For us, it's something that we are trying to go full speed, but we still don't have like the right tools to be able to track everything in the different like atelier where we need to repair the different products. And there is one thing that is also quite crucial. It's the user experience. And what Camille mentioned on the enabler, how do you attach the digital piece to the physical product? And how do you make sure that both pieces will like stick together during like the next 10, 20, 30, like 100 years for some products? That's quite a challenge. And I feel we are not there yet, hopefully, and like we hope that basically in 3 to 5 years we will really have some digital product passport that will be kind of exemplary, state of the art, where we will have like really the full range of services that I was mentioning before, a user experience that will be completely seamless from tapping the product to getting access to this information and then being able to enjoy either the content or the services that are associated to it. But yeah, we are not that yet. We are working on it. And to give like some numbers, and maybe you have some numbers also on the number of people that are checking those QR codes. On the project where we really deeply embedded the DPP into the sales ceremonial, where the client advisor is understanding the value of the DPP, so getting that content, sharing the services that are accessible for the client, we can reach like 40-50% maximum of claim rate of the DPP. But in project where we don't have like the full range of services, to be honest, we are more at 10%. But with what I said before, plus the fact that people are, it's not like a breaking news, but it's like in like 5-10 years, like the vast majority, like 80% of our clients will be digital native. They will expect actually that kind of experience. And so that will be kind of natural that the client advisor will explain that to the clients, and a no-brainer for him to tap it to access to all this information and services.
Yeah, I bumped in on it quite quickly, but we have few figures, but at some point COVID actually really accelerated the access of QR codes. So once again, it's a medium from maybe another for the DPP, but we saw now an approx of 100K click or views on DPP at Fairly Made level per week, meaning like a huge access. So it can be online, can be physical. And the second element is that for the brands we work with, it do not create new clients. What we saw and see still is that it helps the brands to create love brand, but for existing clients. So it helps you to retain your clients, maybe not to sign new client or to get a new client in, but at least it helps you to create this kind of new link also with the community and existing clients.
Thank you so much. So it's time to conclude. So we can say that, yes, we are at the beginning of the journey with this DPP topic. It can embed a lot of different information, authenticity, traceability, environmental footprint, repair, care. So yes, it's a very powerful tool. So thank you so much, Leonore, Benoit, Camille, and now we can open the floor to discussions, to questions if you have a few. Yes, we have, I can see. We have already, I don't know how.
This.
Hello there, thank you very much indeed. What a fantastic session. The amount of knowledge there is great. I'm Christopher Stopes, Global Organic Textile Standard, and I had a bit of a technical question, so I'm going to end up maybe going in a geeky direction now to follow up with Leonore, and what a great presentation, immense and comprehensive knowledge you've got, it's good. My question is regarding PEF and its inadequacy to deal with natural fibres, natural systems, and to consider sufficiently biodiversity outcomes, for example. So PEF is in the process of, firstly, Commission drawing back from. We need to populate it with something better. And although EcoScore is a bit better, we need to go deeper. And I'd invite maybe a further conversation to follow up on that, because it's really important we get it right. But just to finish, one of the key things, I wrote it down to make sure I didn't forget. I mean, luxury, you're right, can define and be defined by durability, both physical and emotional, but we need to fill that with content. One approach, amongst many, is GOTS and its label, which is durable, will last for 100 years in a Burberry trench coat or whatever. And that's a way to signify all of those outcomes. So great session, but what are we going to do about PEF? Thank you.
If I may, a couple of remarks. Thanks so much for that. To be honest, from my standpoint, it's true that PEF is always going to have limitation, and any methodology will have limitations. And yes, and to be honest, in a group of 16 voting members, I'm one of 16, and we're facing against mass market and sportswear, and it's true that it's been quite complicated conversations in the past few years. What my viewpoint from it is that we need one standardized method so that we can work around from it. So it's one harmonized method. And it's true that when we have another French methodology that is sort of same, but different, it makes it quite complex for brands that are selling on the European market or internationally. So one first thing is to have one harmonized method, and maybe to add in some complements and some other information on products. Then you can question as well why one method and why is it created by sportswear and mass market brands. And whilst I have questioned this a lot in the past few years, they represent the volumes on the market, and as such, they are the ones that can set the values by default. They're not the ones that can set the thresholds or the standards, but it's true that they are representing what's happening on the market today. So my job in the past few years has been to make sure that for every rules that we've decided to say, well, you know, on our market or our business model, it's a little bit different. Well, you know, we don't have the same split of materials that are used. And this is back to your second point, is the difference between natural and synthetic fibers. It's a real question, and especially when it comes to environmental footprint and the duration of product and the attachment of the materials. In the French method, what actually they've tried to do is to put a slight complement of for materials on the non-physical durability, to say that we have a slightly stronger attachment to natural fibers. So that's not really addressing entirely the discrepancies that can have in databases, because it's true that today polyester scores better than other natural fibers, and to say the least, wool has a very stronger environmental footprint, but it does have a higher environmental footprint on our environment for many reasons. But where it is pointing out is that people tend to keep longer and to care better for natural fibers. For example, you can pass on a wool jumper, or you can repair it better. You sweat a little bit less. So in other countries, when it gets resold, you keep it longer. So on some elements, it's still a work in progress, and we are trying to address and to see how we can work around the database and what's correct information, because we have better up-to-date information on plastic and on synthetic fibers. But then you raise a really interesting point. It's work in progress. We're looking forward to having one method. The European Commission has said it's one single method and other methodologies. But today, up to date, the one that is the most finished would be the PFCR, and really, I'll finish with this, is I can't wait to see it on the market with companies and to work around it, because we need to practice it. We need to see how it is in practice. We need to see how it has an impact on consumers before just having theories and debates.
Leonore could talk hours and hours.
I have a
So
tattoo
she
on
knows
my...
everything about Beth, so I think we have another question here. Yeah.
Hello. Yes,
Yeah.
nice working. Thanks for the panelists for the great discussion. My name is Dora. I work in sustainability consulting in Amsterdam. I actually have two questions, but that gentleman already asked my first question. I got the great mind thinks alike. My second question is, how do we ensure traceability and using digital product passport for products that last multiple life cycles, as luxury products are built to be cherished for multiple generations to come. So, for example, if a product is being repaired, resold, or even recycled, do you apply DPP at the product level, at component level? At what time do you draw the boundary? At what time do you create a new DPP?
I can start and
Yeah.
so first, that's a very great question. As we were saying, we are in the beginning of the journey, so we didn't found solution for everything. But what we envision, basically, it's so what we are doing with the blockchain, for example, is that we have kind of a traceability token for some materials, plus the DPP, which is kind of the product-facing component that will encompass, potentially different traceability token for different materials. So that's first. So during the journey of the products, what we will do then, when there are some care and repair events, that can modify the product, improve it, or include additional material. What we envision is that we want to continue to record that and have kind of an update of the at some point in the back end of the token on the blockchain and on what the clients will be able to see. But then that's the question we didn't solve. It's okay, now you want to come back from a product to something like a circularity play, and you want to take back different components. That's where we still don't have the solution, but at some point we still have the material information and the product information, and if we want to deconstruct it, we should be able to do it at some point. But we don't have the solution, and you said it's with many different generations that we will experiment that. So probably, I guess, the first kind of product where we may experiment it, like a couple of years ago, we launched a DPP project with Vuitton on the very specific diamond shape, diamond cut of Vuitton, and all the different diamond suppliers of Vuitton are directly recording the information on the blockchain, and then we use it to create that product DPP. So if at some point some client would like to change the product but reuse that diamond, we will be able to do that kind of things that you are describing. But I guess we will need to wait 5 to 10 years to see that use case. But that's definitely some user journey that we are trying to think about, because that's, we feel we have kind of the beginning of the solution in our hands, but we need to understand how it will work from a user journey standpoint, from a data standpoint, and from an industrial also management standpoint.
Yeah, and if I join on the topic of traceability, there are also two challenges. The first is when you face upcycled materials, so upcycled fabric, upcycled different dead stock fabric, and there's these questions on where we should start considering the traceability, I would say, line. So do we consider the warehouse where the dead stock is stored as a first step on your new traceability journey? For instance, my jumper, like Marine Serre working on dead stocks, is that the warehouse, the origin of the fabric? Or should we consider a percentage of the impact of the fabric from the virgin fabric you took from this dead stock fabric? So I would say those new framework for the let's say, traceability, but also for the impact calculation of those new generation of garments need to be also framed. So there are some elements in DPFs, there are some elements on the also French EcoScore, but it's a key question, and that's where you have physical information such as DPP, it helps as well the customer to understand what's behind the grades. Not only to see like a single score, but also to understand if there is a warehouse where it was stored, but that there is also an impact of the origin of the virgin product to explain the grade and the calculations.
It will be almost time to conclude, but I have maybe one last question for you. Do we have a single idea of the environmental footprint of a DPP today? Or we don't know? No. Maybe if you don't know, we don't know. But
you mean the technical aspect of it?
Yeah. And the use of a DPP. Are we able to assess the environmental footprint
I think so.
of DPP? Yeah.
I mean, we could
do that, but we don't know. So far.
No, we don't measure it, but
Don't
you're
measure
right. We should be able to do it.
Yeah.
We know basically, and I know like initially, historically, the blockchain has some really bad press around the ecological, environmental footprint. But you know, there was that debate around like, okay, I'm going to be technical, around proof of work that is used in Bitcoin and proof of stake that is now mainly used and where like Ethereum migrated to. And so we are using like a consensus mechanism that is actually quite efficient. And so for us, like it's like running a database, let's say, but a database that is decentralized, open to a new ecosystem and to all our value chains. But that's definitely an exercise, you're right, that we should be doing.
But it's also about collecting the right information and not over collecting data that's not going to be used. And that's probably the struggle today, is that we are collecting slightly over too much to make sure that we have exhaustive information that are not necessarily used. And so it's really targeting, is it for risk assessment? Is it for environmental performance? Is it for consumer information and care? And targeting the collection, the data collection towards its case study.
Yeah.
And on that, if I can just add that if the information is right attached, as also Benoit mentioned, linking the physical to the digital identification of a product, then it would compensate also the end of life to make it sure that we optimize as well the end of life of the product, and for sure we would compensate the impact of it.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all for attending this panel. Hopefully you have learned some great
Thank you, Alexandre.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.